Hello, and welcome to another episode of Superpowers, the show where you get to experience the extraordinary. And today I have a great guest. She is really an extraordinary guest. Her name is Sharron Rose, and Sharron has had a wonderful and beautiful life journey. And the stepping stones for that were laid out at a very early age, and we'll talk about some of those things. But Sharron is a healer, and she's a filmmaker, and she's a dancer, choreographer, and an author, and a composer, and a teacher, and she's at a level with all of those things that would be enough for like one person's life journey to have done one of those things. So Sharron is, in the truest sense, she is a Renaissance woman, and all of what she's been doing up to this point has really led her, and those have been foundational things for this next exciting thing that she's doing in her life, which she's going to share with us today. And so rather than take any more time on my intro, I'm going to jump in and we will say hello to Sharron Rose. Hello, Sharron.
Hi, Karl. It's a real pleasure to be with you all today. You know, it's interesting. You're bringing up the subject of that I have so many different areas of that I have explored through this extraordinary life.
Right.
And many years ago, I was at a Tibetan teaching with my teacher, Namkhai Norbu, and he was talking about what it means to be a bodhisattva. And he said, to be the first level bodhisattva, then you need to be able to be perfected at least 10 things. Like if you were a lawyer, you need to be like 10 different things. So I thought this is a great idea to aspire to learn as much as possible. And all of the teachings that I've had in this life, I've been very fortunate that I've been with very traditional teachers from different spiritual traditions and healing traditions.
Yeah.
And they all have seemed to weave together, in the way of, I would say, the divine feminine, weave together to bring me to this point where I am right now with my project, Quantum Qi, the Taoist art of nurturing life.
Sharron, what I'd like to do, just for our audience, for those that may not know you, be familiar with you, is just take us on a little bit of that journey, starting when you were very young. And I know that your mother had some good intuition on how to work with you as an energetic and very, very sensitive child. So tell us a little bit about that and just some of those steps.
Well, my mother is amazing. She's still alive. She's 92.
Oh, wow.
And she's still going strong, going to classes, going to symphonies.
Mm-hmm.
She went to college at 14.
Wow.
But she was also trained in the arts, and she was a tap dancer and choreographer herself.
Oh. Okay.
So I was her first child, and I started walking at 9 months, and immediately she started teaching me to dance. And then starting at 3, she put me in ballet, and then at 5 into singing classes, and then about 9 into acting classes. Because her dream, I came from Baltimore. Well, that's in the news these days.
Yeah, it is.
Came from Baltimore, and her dream was for me to be on Broadway. So
Right.
I had this, encompassing training. Now, what's very interesting about it, first of all, it gave me an incredible sense of discipline that has served me all my life.
Right.
Now I'm 70, and I am now still stretching and doing Qi Gong and yoga and Feldenkrais and craniosacral, like 2 hours a day.
Right. Right.
It keeps you young, it keeps you healthy and happy.
Yeah.
So I'm so grateful to her. And what's interesting is that when I got to acting class, well, let's start from the beginning. In ballet, you're doing movements that to me are very similar to Qi Gong, actually. Right. You're doing movements that are based on sacred geometry.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
Right. And also you're learning, as I was learning as a singer and a dancer, how to transmit a story, how to transmit light and energy and joy.
Right.
And also stories, even then I was playing different characters, which later when I got to Indian classical dance and I was embodying the entire story, let's say, of the goddess Durga, where I'm playing Durga, I'm playing the gods, I'm playing the demons. So all that began as a child. But more important to me was when I started in acting, they gave us these exercises. It was Stanislavski's system,
Uh-huh.
which came from Russia.
Right.
And they had us go to the mall or someplace where we could sit and just watch people.
Right.
And, and that's when I began to learn how to read energy
Right. Yeah.
and also emotion. How
Yeah.
people, we were told in acting that you would, you'd look at them and see, are they doing weird things?
Mm-hmm.
Um, how are they holding their shoulders? Are they frightened? Are they
Right.
happy?
Right.
And so
Yeah.
that was the beginning of that. And then the next phase of that came when I was doing my master's thesis in graduate school. And I decided that I was very interested in the work of Wilhelm Reich and
Mm-hmm.
Alexander Lowen
Right.
on different character, well, also energy,
Yeah.
but how the different, a schizophrenic personality or a compulsive personality. And I created dances
Mm-hmm.
based upon those characters to actually show people what those ways of moving and expression would look like.
Right.
So that was the next step. And then as I went on into modern dance in New York and choreography and still working, and then at that point, I met dancers and musicians from all over the world. And
Right.
so my world opened up because now I was immersed in African dance and Haitian dance and let's see, Middle Eastern dance, all these different rhythmic ancient expressions. It was incredible.
Right.
And then a miraculous thing happened.
Right.
And that was that I had an experience where the world of Indian classical dance opened to me. I was sitting, meditating,
Mm-hmm.
and on the beach, and I'm looking out, and all of a sudden I saw this, I think it was Shiva. I didn't know who he was, this
Right.
deity glowing in front of me. And I
Yeah.
started doing Indian dance, even though I had no training in it. And really, it wasn't a place where I'd been experiencing Indian dance. But I started doing all the mudras and all
Uh-huh.
the expressions, and it was as though every motion that I made was every movement of the eye or smile was creating reality. It was extraordinary. And when I came back from that experience, I walked up the steps into the place I was teaching in Boston.
Right.
It was called Joy of Movement Center. And
Uh-huh.
there was this man, Dulal Talukdar, sitting at the desk. And
Right.
he had been the head of the National Dance Company of Pakistan. And so he knew all these Indian classical dance um, traditions. And so he
Right.
trained me in a few of them. And it was clear to me. And so then that's when I started. I mean, I had started yoga in the 60s when I was in college.
Mm-hmm.
And I have had the blessing of performing as Shiva at DKS Iyengar's 75th birthday at Harvard.
Right.
So at that point, I really started looking into the Hindu system
Mm-hmm.
uh, and and Hindu mythology, and it was also clear he was a Muslim man, and it was clear to me that I needed a teacher who was a Hindu woman,
Right.
and so he gave me this book to look at, The Dance in India, and I opened the page, and there was this gorgeous woman, Sitara Devi,
Uh-huh.
queen of North Indian Kathak dance. She had been a early Bollywood star.
Right.
Her family was part of the lineage forever.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "This is the only person that I would want you to study with."
Right.
Because I knew I had to go, and my friends had fellowships, so they told me how to apply.
Yeah.
And so then walking down the street in Harvard Square, and I see a guy putting up posters for a very famous Surbahar, which is bass sitar player from one of the very powerful families
Mm-hmm.
of music families. And I said, "Wow, I'm studying Indian dance." He goes, "Well, I am promoting this concert. Imrat Khan is staying with me. Would you like to meet him?" So then
Ah.
I met him, and we really hit it off immediately. And
Right.
I danced for him, and he said, oh, he knew Sitara. So he
Oh.
wrote me a letter to her and for the grant, which was the American Institute of Indian Studies
Uh-huh.
professional development grant. And the next thing I knew, I was in India. Now, I had a very interesting experience that was unusual in that before I went, I've had a history of being able in dreams to travel. And
Oh.
so, I was sleeping in the dream. I woke up and I said, oh, here I am. What do I want to do? Oh, I want to go see Sitara. And then I went into this tunnel of light and
Right.
ended up in this room.
Uh-huh.
And this woman looks up at me with this like, it's kind of like her, like it was her quintessential expression. I didn't know it at that time, like,
Yeah.
what's going on here? And then I was startled back awake. Now,
Right.
when I got to her home, the room was exactly the same, and there she
Oh.
was.
Oh, how cool is that? I have a quick question for you. Just
Yeah.
going back to something that you said, and I don't know what degree of information you may or may not have about it, but you mentioned lineage. And I know that within Indian traditions, things are passed down, from family to family or from person to person, and lineages tend to be Indian. So, can you talk a little bit about just the lineage that you were entering, and then also if it was unusual for an American to be able to participate in that?
Well, I was her first American disciple.
Oh, so unusual
Yeah.
then.
Well, now it's different, but
Yeah,
I had this great privilege, really,
yeah,
to actually live with her.
right.
And she gave away her other students to her sister. And so she concentrated, it was 8 hours, well, it was more than 8 hours a day because, there was all this training. She brought in a tabla player and sitar player who worked with me every day during my practice. And then
Mm-hmm.
she'd come and teach me. But I fall in love when I'm going to a tradition.
Yeah.
I fall in love with, and so it's like voracious. And
Mm-hmm.
so, at night I'd be writing, I'd ask her all these stories that were related to, but you asked about lineage. Well,
Yeah.
lineage not only exists in the Hindu, it exists in many traditions. So,
Right.
lineage means that the teachings are passed down over centuries sometimes,
Right.
uh, and many generations. The
Yeah.
teachings stay alive
Right.
through that lineage. And hers was from Benares. What was Benares at that time? Now it's Varanasi.
Uh-huh.
It was a music and dance and story lineage. Her father, actually, it's interesting with Kathak
Mm-hmm.
because it began when the Aryans came into North India. They brought this new Vedic tradition. They were very nature oriented. So
Right.
nature's been a very big part of my life and work.
Yeah.
And in the way they transmitted these teachings to the people were through these kathakas, these
Mm-hmm.
dancer storytellers,
Right.
like spiritual Broadway, actually,
Yeah.
where they went from temple to temple and they acted out the stories of, Saraswati, the river. So that's the other thing they did. They felt that the aspects of nature were divine.
Uh-huh. Right.
Unlike today when we too much treat nature as a resource,
Right.
nature
Yeah.
there were aspects of the divine. So
Yeah.
the goddess Saraswati is actually a river. Ganga, the Ganges, is a goddess as well.
Right. Yeah.
So they were dancing these stories, and then this lineage got passed down. But it also then what happened around, like maybe 1100, maybe a little before that, when the Mughals, the Persians, started coming into North India, they took over the whole Mughal Empire. Then they loved dance. They had beautiful dance in their own world.
Right.
Particularly, they loved rhythm.
Yeah.
And so North Indian classical music like Ravi Shankar, Ali Akbar Khan, these people, it is actually a blend of this Persian
Mm-hmm.
music and dance and the early Hindu Kathak and even other Hindu forms such as Bharatanatyam. And so that's another thing that's really been interesting to me throughout my life. the integration of music and dance and healing practices and
Right.
more from all these different traditions. So we could say, like, I've done a lot of study of ancient Egypt. In fact, I've reconstructed music, dance, and ritual from the hieroglyphs, the goddess temples.
Just
And there
a
are
little something to do in
there
your spare time, right? When
are in the book called The Temple of Man by Schweller de Lubitz, who was an incredible Egyptologist and mystic.
Right.
Uh, he has these papyruses which describe what I would call the craniosacral rhythm and the craniosacral system.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
They were very extraordinary healers.
Right.
And so not only have I looked at the music and dance and spiritual traditions, particularly mythology and beyond, and sacred geometry and all these traditions,
Right.
but I'm looking at how does this all help one in their daily life
Right.
and help one specifically to heal and live in the midst of the chaos and particularly these days, the distractions and the confusions. And how do you find your true nature in the midst of all of these wild vibrations and fear-based media?
Right. Well, which is a great question, and I think something that all of us wake up to every day and go, "Oh, geez, this again." Now who am I? And and you moved into not only like healing energies and healing modalities, but also way back, in the early dancing, you were also becoming a filmmaker. And all of these things are sort of playing a part in where we're going and leading up to what's coming for you. So talk a little bit about the integration of the dance in the filmmaking, and then I want to talk a little bit too just about your healing experiences too.
I began with video in 1978.
Mm-hmm.
And many years, my focus was dance and music. So I was doing music video, well, world music videos. I remember being in a reggae video. I had this incredible opportunity to work in the first, then it was a blue screen, now you call it green screen room in New York,
Right.
working with every editor this was National Video Industries. The owner was a man named Brian Kelly, who really could see what I was up to. I've always been a little bit ahead, or maybe even more, in
Yeah.
terms of what I'm doing. And so we put together in this room. I was kind of the way that he tried out all the equipment,
Right.
and I did this piece called Lotus Mind, which was based on Buddhist teachings.
We might actually have a clip of you doing this. Is that a true story?
Yes, that I'm going to I'm going to give you that. And I got to work with all the editors to bring out their wildest special effects. So we started this
Oh.
about 87, and
Right.
we had the effects were not like today, but they're
Yeah.
pretty amazing, and it was just so much fun. I was working as I do in everything, and what I love about film
Yeah.
uh, is that you can work on so many layers and levels. So
Right.
you're getting the music, which has a very profound effect on people,
Yeah.
and you're getting the movement, but also you can put in a lot of symbolic
Yes.
things. So
Yeah.
that's been also an area that I've looked at,
Yeah.
sacred symbols, through not just sacred geometric symbols, but I mean, for example, there's the third eye, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you might show it in Indian dance by doing that, right?
Right. Yeah.
Um, but it's also the Vesica Pisces, very sacred geometry. And so, like in the Egyptian, so I would go in order to do, I'm a scholar too, so I would go and do research in museums like I love the Metropolitan Museum in New York, because I
Yeah.
really want to pay tribute to the
Mm-hmm.
beauty of these traditions. They're so multifaceted.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. So can we go ahead
yeah.
and have a look then at this clip of you dancing and with the blue screen and all that new tech and what you were doing back then?
Oh, of course.
Okay. That's very cool, and I love too that you are getting a chance to take advantage of an emerging technology. I mean, going all the way back into the 70s, that's what George Lucas was using to create the effects for Star Wars. And while it doesn't match what it is that we're doing today, I mean, we hadn't ever seen anything like that, and so how cool that there you were right on the cutting edge and learning about that and participating in it too.
We were doing really wild things. I had a friend who he built computers that were synthesizers, right?
Uh-huh.
And he had been a psychologist. So we did things like we had grants where we put electrodes on the dancers' bodies, and
Right.
when we would move, it would trigger a signal
Oh, that is
into
so cool.
so it was called music through movement.
Right.
But
Yeah.
so I kept going, even in India, I worked with Jamia Millia University
Mm-hmm.
on a dance and music and, well, the integration. It was about the integration of Indian philosophy into early modern dance.
Right.
But
Yeah.
then the big, deeper entry into the world of filmmaking came when I met my husband, Jay Widener,
Right.
and we started our company, Sacred Mysteries,
Yeah.
which was 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
We started with doing what I'd call portrait documentaries. So, of course, we had Alex Gray, the
Right.
visionary artist.
Right.
Now, this is all leading up to where I am now, because my mission, one of them, has been to help people to understand, first of all, the beauty and power of the physical body,
Right. Right.
but that we have much more subtle fields. There's an
Mm-hmm.
emotional body, there's a mental body, you
Right.
know, there's many of them, soul body, spirit body, depending on what tradition you're looking into.
Right.
And because of my training,
Mm-hmm.
I also trained as a craniosacral therapist and a Feldenkrais and a lot of things like that. So
Right.
it just came clear to me that if people could really perceive the larger aspects of who we are and how
Mm-hmm.
their energy and their emotions and their thoughts are not only affecting their own body, but affecting other people,
Right.
then it would make for a more awakened and I think happier world.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we started with, we had Alex Gray, and the way we showed, of course, the energy body, the energy matrix, was through his remarkable paintings that not only show the chakras or the tree of life or and all the energy fields, but at times they show negative entities
Mm-hmm.
sucking off your field. They're really showing you this larger reality.
Right. Yeah.
And we also did Healing the Luminous Body with Alberto Violdo,
Mm-hmm.
which is even to this day one of the most watched little documentaries on Gaia.
Yeah.
um, and the amazing thing was that when I interview someone,
Yes.
I sit there, I have my questions. I sit there, I open my field, I
Mm-hmm.
feed them.
Yeah.
It's an amazing honor to be able to ask these teachers and
Yeah.
masters these
Agreed.
questions. So, I take it in, I
Mm-hmm.
take it in. And so he was giving his teaching on the luminous energy field from the
Right.
Quero tradition of Peru.
Yeah.
And so when we were done, we went off to a pizza shop, and all of a sudden it was like my whole visual perspective opened up, and I was looking around and I could see everybody's fields and I could see all this movement. It was incredible.
Yeah.
And throughout the years, as we interviewed lots of people, and especially now working in the Taoist tradition with the Quantum Qi series,
Mm-hmm.
uh, it's been amazing. I would say that for me, filmmaking is like an initiation
Right. Yeah.
because I'm with these teachers, I'm receiving the knowledge and energetically too,
Right.
and then I'm listening and listening and listening and listening as we edit.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm getting a real immersion.
Right.
Uh, so let's see, I made a film called Yoga of Light for Women to align them with their higher level of emotions and the divine feminine. And
Right.
then we went on to do a number of films.
Yeah.
The last one, we finally did a feature called The Last Avatar.
Uh-huh.
And that was a kind of culty film. And in it, we introduced the concept of the light body. In fact, Neil Donald Walsh played
Yeah.
Count Saint Germain,
Oh, fun.
and and he gave this little exposition on the light body.
Right. Yeah. Very
So
fun.
we
Very
had
cool.
finished this, and I thought, what am I going to do now? And I thought, well, I've been looking at the energy body and what you would call light body um, for so many years, particularly in the Tibetan tradition since '85, doing lots of practice. And I thought, well, maybe we need to go deeper. And so I should do a documentary on that.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to interview Mantak Chia,
Uh-huh.
the Qi Gong master, for that.
Right.
And it was at a place called Eastover in Lenox, Massachusetts, and they had a medical Qigong and Tai Chi conference going on. So the
Right.
owner said to me, Ying, she said to me, well, you're here, just interview everybody. So I interviewed everybody. What was amazing to me was that we did everything in nature because I want to bring people into nature, which is
Yeah.
not easy as a filmmaker,
Yeah.
but
Right.
but it's gorgeous. So
Yeah.
every one of them stood for an hour to 2 hours in front of the camera as I interviewed them.
Mm-hmm.
And they were so filled with chi, with light,
Right.
and transmitting this energy.
Right.
I mean, I've been with lots of teachers in lots
Yeah.
of traditions, and I found these teachers to be the most healthy and happy and really giving
Right.
of
Yeah.
any of the traditions I'd even encountered in all these years.
Mm-hmm.
So I was really taken with this. And I came back, and with my videographer of the time, Doug Beechwood, we had such a strong transmission that we sat down and wrote like a 12-part outline for the light body. And then I said,
Yeah.
well, wait a minute. I can't afford to do this, but I could do a little documentary on Qi Gong, and that was 3 years ago. And how this has developed, it wants to be around at least 10 episodes, because
Yeah. Right.
I feel that the teachings of the Taoist tradition of Qigong, Tai Chi, and martial arts, and acupuncture, and feng shui, and all of them, has so much to offer us
Right.
with
Yeah.
this work, because it's really about harmony and balance within and
Right.
without.
Yeah. Well, and let's just talk about that just for a quick second, because we have entered the portal of this next exciting phase in your journey, which is the Quantum Qi movie and the Quantum Qi project. So just real quick, for people who don't know, because a lot of times we hear things and we hear it enough and we go, oh yeah, but we don't really know what it is. Just a basic sort of framework of Qigong for people, and how that tradition has been used throughout the centuries.
Qigong really is a fairly recent term, but it goes back to the ancient shamanic traditions.
Mm-hmm.
Again, love of nature, observing how the elements move, observing inner observation of meditation.
Right.
It goes way, way back, just like many of these traditions.
Yeah.
And then it was created as a means of healing, really discovering your true nature and learning how to heal yourself.
Right.
Through movement, through meditation, through flow, through all kinds of really interesting inner alchemical practices. So in that way, I mean, I've looked at alchemy in the Hindu tradition. I've looked at it definitely with my husband, who's an authority on Western alchemy.
Right.
And then here was another tradition, which the whole essence of it is to be able to transmute the darkness, the negative, the muck that the lotus flower
Right.
goes into the lotus flower of enlightenment.
Right.
And what I love about Qigong, I mean, I was a yoga practitioner and still am since the 60s, really.
Mm-hmm.
And the difference between that, and maybe it's the way that yoga's been transmitted to the West, there is a sense of grace and movement and flow in Qigong.
Right.
That is extraordinary. And it's one of the main precepts is movement and stillness, stillness and movement. And so it's not just that you're when you're moving and you're doing these very slow and languid, you're moving the energy. Mm-hmm. I mean, Qi is energy. In the Hindu tradition, they call it prana, right? There's many different, they might even call it Shakti. It's life force energy. Yeah. And Qigong is as the foundational practice for all of the martial arts and for Tai Chi. It really teaches you to understand your body, your organs, your personal energy field, and how to bring the light of Qi into your body, to your organs, right? And really, really take it in and heal yourself.
Tell me a little bit, or tell us, you and I spoke about this the other day, but your experience that you had as you were interviewing these masters, and what was happening with you and what was happening within you through that process of just interacting with them and their fields and the effect that it had on you.
Well, we'll start by mentioning that in the tantric teachings, which I've been involved in since the early 80s, they always say that, studying tantra is like walking the razor's edge.
Uh-huh.
And so I would apply that because what happened was I was every time, and I've in the last 3 years, I've done numerous interviews with many, many masters and scholars, acupuncturists, etc. And so, as I said, I open myself up and I receive this chi, this light, and this knowledge on these higher vibrational levels. And it always really stimulates me. And I find myself like reaching some other kind of higher level in myself.
Mm-hmm.
Then, after maybe about 6 weeks,
Yeah.
it always happens um, that then what I would call my shadow selves, everything that hasn't been, or the next aspect of what hasn't been looked at and dealt with and cleared will pop up.
Right.
And sometimes it'll be, and I have to say, many of you will probably relate to this, that these shadow selves come from early childhood wounding.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
That, we're in a situation, we come in, we're pure and fresh and open, and then different circumstances will almost have us create these shadow personalities
Right.
to protect ourselves. And over the years, I've been looking at this.
Yeah.
And I've also, in my study of how energy works, I see that what happens is that not only, are these thoughts and emotions, but they create what I call holding patterns in the body itself.
Mm-hmm.
And so this goes way back to my observing people as a child. And so what happens as we get older in particular, these patterns, they start to kind of crystallize and cause us pain.
Right.
And so if we start to, a lot of when I teach, I like to teach about the relationship between the thoughts, the emotions, and the physical. So in my own exploration, if I'm going, I'll be doing some Feldenkrais, very slow exercises for like the shoulder, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll do them very slow so I can, using my craniosacral training, to see where it's stuck,
Right.
right? And so I'll keep, my consciousness will be in the tissue, but then all of a sudden I realize that I'm not relaxed anymore. And I realize that my mind has gone off to these thoughts. And the thoughts are actually triggering these patterns in the body.
Right.
And so I've been working a lot on, and also what's interesting, so if you have a shoulder issue, definitely, or very often there'll be an issue. So if the shoulder's on the right side, there may be an issue in your left hip.
Mm-hmm.
That it's not just, the shoulder, but it works throughout the system. So what really, a basic practice for that is working with the breath.
Right. So now, as you were having these experiences and these things were opening up, obviously, then this beautiful project began to emerge, the Qi Gong movie. So, which is what we are moving toward also. So tell us now about that. Tell us about Quantum Qi. And your vision of that, and what's coming up for that.
For me, I feel like I was chosen by the Tao. and when I get into the tornadoes, I'd call them, of these shadow selves wanting to, really, they want to be released.
Right.
Then I really, once I clear them, it's this whole new world of understanding energy and the practices. Particularly, there's one called the 6 healing sounds,
Mm-hmm.
where you're working with the energy of your different organs to free, because the organs in this tradition holds all the emotions. So you're working to, free all these emotions. So that's beautiful. But anyway, what it was, once it began, it took over my life. It was as though everything that I had learned in this life had prepared me for this time.
Yeah.
And not only, all the healing and all these teachings in movement and dance and filming movement for so many years.
Right.
But it was also, let's see, I don't know, so many things.
Yeah.
So it's also the technology. I've always been very interested in the cutting edge technology.
Right.
So um, I live in Crestone, Colorado, which is called the Shambhala of the Rockies, an extraordinary place, little town.
Mm-hmm.
And it was created by my dear friend, Hannah Strong, to house the world's religions, to see if we could all live together.
Ah.
It's a pretty unusual place. So
Right.
I went into our local coffee shop and I met I saw this young animator who I really like, and she introduced me to this young woman and said, "Oh, this is Emiliana, and her husband is a aerial drone photographer, and
Yeah.
she really wants to know about Qi Gong." And I was going off to interview my dear master Li Junfeng,
Mm-hmm.
who he's 80 now. He's extraordinary. He moves like he's in his 30s.
Oh, wow.
And he was a martial arts film star. He discovered and trained Jet Li. He was also head of the Beijing Wushu team, winning many awards. But then as he got older, he got really deep into the Qigong, and
Right.
particularly his is it's called Shenzhen meditation, which is teaching about opening the heart and unconditional love.
Yeah.
And it's just very beautiful. So I was going to interview him down in Paonia, Colorado. And I
Right.
said to her, "Well, would you like to come?" And they said, "Sure." So
Ah.
that's when I began the work with the drones.
Yeah.
And
Right.
what a wonderful tool.
Yeah. It
You'll
is.
see
It,
it just I mean, it's not just the person is moving, but the camera's moving, and
right.
you can do such beautiful work with it.
Yeah.
And it's as a director,
Mm-hmm.
it's just an amazing addition to the project.
Yeah.
And so we've been very fortunate in that many of the places we filmed in many locations, it's been like in retreat centers and places where I'm able to use the drone.
Yeah.
But the other thing that's so amazing in quantum chi that's been so exciting to me, because you remember we began Sacred Mysteries with looking at the energy body.
Right.
Well, I'm working with a wonderful animator now named Matt Yerington, and he's also a videographer and editor.
Yeah.
And so that gives him, he's a great drone pilot too. And because he's doing all these tasks, it gives him, when he's filming, he's also thinking of the editing. And it's
Right.
just been amazing to work with him and, direct him into this wild world. He had worked in music video. But
Yeah.
when I came to this, I said, I am an artist and I have tremendous respect for traditions.
Mm-hmm.
So I want the animations to look like Chinese watercolor paintings.
Yeah.
From like the Tang or Yuan dynasties. So, I sent him all these paintings to look at. And so we started with that, and we had some people do some drawings where they look like these paintings, but we would show the energy, like the meridians
Mm-hmm.
and the dantians, which are like they're kind of like chakras for the
Yeah.
Taoist tradition. That's
Yeah.
one of the reasons I really think that this tradition is great to bring forth to people, because instead of 7 or 10, you only have 3.
3. Yes.
And they're very right. There's one in your belly, there's one in your heart, and there's one in your third eye.
Right. Yeah.
I found as I go deeper into the teachings, they're simple. I mean, they can get complex,
Mm-hmm.
but they're very accessible
Right.
for everybody. And I taught many years in schools, these many culture, dance, music, theater, all that. And
Right.
I only wish I had the Qigong, because also it's very connected with nature. So some of the movements like you're doing, like I'm a big bird, I'm flying in the sky, and I'm bringing in the Qi to heal myself. And I'm gathering the Qi from all of nature and I'm bringing it into myself. And
Right.
once I really have a clarity and a groundedness, which is very important in Qigong. It's one of the main teachings, how to ground. And that's also, we're at the moment working on episode 2. Episode 1 of Quantum Qi is an introduction. It's like, what is Qi? What does Qi feel like? What is Qigong?
Right.
An introduction to the energy matrix and Taoism and all that. The second one, we go into the martial arts.
Yeah.
And we're talking about how Qigong is the foundational practice. But we're also talking about this is where it's really opening up to understand working with energy. We're talking about, in this world today, how does one protect oneself? I mean,
Right.
the martial arts began as a way to protect, as Sifu Matthew says in the film, your property, your family, all of that. But these days, it's not so much that we're dealing with, how do you protect yourself emotionally? How do you
Right.
protect yourself from other people, sending their anger at you? What do you do? And so a new program came up in the animation world, which enables us to do what's called rotoscoping, where you're like, we'll have, so if it was me, I'd be doing, I'd be standing, and then it would cut me out, and then I'd be moving, and then we could put me into a ancient Chinese watercolor landscape, right?
Right.
So we
Yeah.
started working with that, and then we realized that we could start showing the energy, showing
Yeah.
the particles of qi coming into the body,
Right.
helping people to visualize, not only sense it, but also really start to visualize what it looks like.
Yeah.
And now
Yeah.
we're working with, we're trying out some new things where we have people, having an argument, and we're going to show, and I have to acknowledge the great teacher healer Barbara Brennan for her
Uh-huh.
seminal
Right.
in helping people to see and read energy and work with energy. So
Right.
this has been my dream from the beginning, well, for many years, but also in video from the beginning of Sacred Mystery. So the other thing that's been wonderful is that, see, I feel that Qi Gong, I'm here to help it become as popular as yoga in the West. I think it's a great complement
Right.
to yoga. And so then I was put together with the Shift Network. And
Ah.
last year we did the first Qi Gong Global Summit, in which I interviewed many of the people in the film.
Right.
And it was a really big success.
Yeah.
And this year in late September, we're doing it again. And this year, because we reached out to everybody, said, what do you want? What do you want? And they
Yeah.
said, we want about healing. We want
Yeah.
to know, we want exercises.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that we have one coming up. It's going to be really, this year I have like 30 people I'm interviewing. It's just growing.
Oh boy.
So,
Yeah. Busy.
just come to our website, quantumchimovie.com, and then all the updates will be coming up. Anyway, so I've been working on this and being with these masters and going through all this inner work and outer work and traveling.
Yeah.
But all the time I've been self-funding this. I took some other job so I could pay my editor, et cetera. And now I've gotten to the point where, I've built pretty nice community. We have a wonderful Facebook group, Quantum Chi Life Force Energy, and people from
Right.
all over the world are posting and all of that. And but now we decided to be able to maintain the level of quality and visionary capacity, that I decided that I have to do I want to do a crowdfunder. So we're going to be doing coming up in, I'd say, between the 6th and 8th
Right.
of August. We begin our Indiegogo crowdfunder. It's going to have wonderful, we have like over 20 perks, exercises from different teachers, and the ability when they're done to screen the first episodes, etc.
Yeah.
So, and I'm preparing what they call in the business a pitch deck, which you send out to Hollywood and foundations and that's also very beautiful. So
Yeah.
this series itself, I feel that I'm being guided by the Tao, and I feel this has taken me to a level I've never been. And I
Right.
think that all of these, transitions in my own psyche are
Yeah.
just leading me to be as grounded and clear as possible to bring this forth, birth this really
Yeah.
at a whole new level into the world.
Right. Well, it's a great project, and you are definitely the person who has been grown to bear this fruit. And fortunately for us and for audience, we have a trailer so you can see some of what Sharon's been talking about just in terms of the animations and the drone work and how beautiful the Quantum Qi movie is going to be and the Quantum Qi project, because it's a multi-episode. So here we go. We're gonna play this trailer from Quantum Qi movie.
Hi, I'm Sharron Rose. We invite you to join the Qi revolution and help us bring forth the next wave in healing, movement, and mind-body integration.
Qi is the thread that weaves together the subtle arts into the martial arts and into the quantum field.
Each episode will explore the science and practices of Qi Gong, Tai Chi, acupuncture, and Taoism, spoken by masters of these arts.
In the Tao, we believe that negative energy and positive energy is energy. They are both forces equal.
Interviews with quantum physicists and medical professionals will expand upon these insights.
Newtonian physics focuses on the physical existence. Quantum physics focuses on the high vibrational existence of energy.
It's no longer just the posture, just the movement, just the spirit, but also a matter of the internal power, the Qi.
Quantum Qi will also include simple practices.
You're sunk and relaxed into the ground as though you're a tree. You're shooting out deep roots into the earth. You're feeling the ground through your feet.
You are designed to feel good. When you're feeling stressed or there's pain or tension in your body, these are messages to make some changes.
We do know that 75 to 85% of all disease is preventable.
A unique aspect of Quantum Qi is the use of aerial drone footage of the masters performing their arts amidst the beauty of nature.
If you love nature and your heart is open to the rest of life, then all nature flows through you and supports you. The Qi supports you.
Visionary animations will educate people about Qi, the quantum field, the energy bodies beyond the physical, and more.
Do you have different pathways that energy moves in order to sustain your life force?
Someone said, well, I'm a patient. Can I do healing? Yes, everybody is a healer.
With some practice, many of us could rejuvenate, replenish ourselves constantly, and refine ourselves to become more youthful.
Everyone wants healthy. Everyone wants happy life. We need go other level. Qi and Qi connect. Heart and heart connect. We have big family.
In the end, why do we do Qi Gong? It's to lead a happy, quality, beautiful life, to elevate the human experience. So that's more than listening to all the bad news in the world. We can't change everything. We can change ourselves. This is what Qi Gong can do.
We invite you to join us in our wellness crusade by choosing one of the many perks we have created, especially for you. Thank you, and may the Qi be with you.
So Sharron, I'm excited for you, and I'm excited also for just the collective consciousness and the immersion of something that, you know, for a long time we have been looking outside of ourselves and looking towards for causes, for results, for healing, for effect, and what I love about the Qi Gong is that it's really showing people how they can find all of that within themselves, which is ultimately the source that we all really want to be tapping into.
Well, it's interesting you should say that, because we made a film called 2012: The Odyssey in 2006.
Yeah.
And I went around the country interviewing Jose Arguelles and the Caro and Alberto and many of the John Major Jenkins, many of the researchers.
Yeah.
And I remember that it began where I was saying, we're so distracted these days by the outer voices that we're not listening to our inner voices anymore.
Yeah.
We're caught in what Alberto called the cultural trance.
Mm-hmm.
And Jose called it the dream spell.
Yeah.
And that's another thing I've been looking at. I went to college in the 60s, and we were all being open through psychedelics to all this energy in these fields and what was going on. So I've been looking at the effect of the media and the conditioning on us all. And that's what part of the reason I've gone into so many these traditions to look for, how do we get to our true nature? How do we get to our source? It's interesting, John Milton, who is in quantum Qi, environmentalist, and Qi Gong and Tai Chi, and teacher of many, many also Tibetan traditions. He always talks about outer nature, inner nature, and true nature. Mm-hmm. So, what is it? How can we get to this source where we're completely pure and clear? That's how we are, essentially. Right. But we have these layers and layers of, imprinting and conditioning. And so one of the reasons I love Qi Gong so much is that there's so many practices. I mean, essentially, it's the teaching to discover.
Right.
Like the Dzogchen tradition that I've been a part of since '85 in Tibet, discover our true nature and to be grounded in that nature. Yeah. Because when you are, so years ago, my teacher Namkai Norbu was we were at a retreat, he was making protection cords for people. And I said, "Oh, Rinpoche, can I have one?" He goes, "What do you need this material object for? That greatest protection is to be totally in, this, what they would call today, source awareness."
Right. Yes.
You would call primordial nature. Yep. Rigpa is the Tibetan term.
Yeah.
And so, it's really this exploration, and we have envisioned an episode. Well, we have lots of different episodes that build on each other, and I actually would like to talk about that. So we're going from understanding the basic overall, that's the pilot overall perspective, and then we go into the martial arts and how to protect yourself. Then we go into describing the Qi matrix. So you're understanding about the Dantians and what they signify, and working with them, and the acupuncture meridians, so that whole Qi matrix. Then we go into what I call really quantum Qi, where I'm going to be interviewing quantum physicists and scientists,
right? So
that and go into particularly a practice called the microcosmic orbit, which because it's the microcosm, macrocosm. Right. Then we go into healing the luminous body, healing the energy body. Right. Then into our relation with nature and chaos. But it's not just nature, but regular outer nature, but it's the inner nature, the consciousness, the thoughts, and then discovering the true nature. Then we go into healing in oneself, evidence of the impact of Qigong and these arts on healing yourself, and then the transmission of like with Reiki, the transmission of Qi to others, working in how to protect yourself in that situation. Right. We go into inner alchemy and immortality and longevity, and I've even spoken to some of these masters about whether they think that a robot has Qi.
Interesting. Really,
the relation,
very interesting question.
AI and Qi.
Yeah.
And then we envision one where we actually go to China and meet some of these people in the caves and stuff. So I really want, for me, it's a real introduction into that gets kind of deeper and deeper into this extraordinary tradition.
Right. Yeah.
And we also bring in, people will talk about its relation with some of the other traditions and how they flow together and work together.
Right. Well, honestly, what it sounds like to me as you describe it is almost a metaphor for your life, and because it's a real journey through there, and it deepens and grows, and it ultimately is getting to remembering who we really are, and so it sounds beautiful. And can you tell us one more time, because you have this crowdfunding project coming up? Can you tell people where they can go, where they can participate in the crowdfunding?
Well, the best place at the moment, because we don't have it, as soon as we have it live, we have that specific link, but I would go to quantumchimovie.com, because we'll have a lot of information, or our Facebook page, facebook.com/quantumchi.
Okay.
And then you're going to get this, well, actually also when we get the campaign up, not only will you see the trailer we're seeing here, but our martial arts trailer, which is very dynamic, and people are really enjoying that.
Yeah.
So there'll be a lot of goodies
Yeah.
that'll be coming up, and lots of interesting posts and information about the series and what's possible. And the other thing that I do want to say is that the way it's envisioned, and you never know in the end, because it seems the Tao wants to direct this.
Yes.
It's envisioned that we have around 40 minutes of describing, of exposition and interview woven together with many of the teachers on the topics. And then there's 20 minutes of actual practice, because for me, the embodiment is everything.
Right. Agreed.
And it's not just, I like that integration of, learning the intellectual.
Yeah.
And then applying it to the physical and the metaphysical.
Well, I agree with you, and I think that's really, really where we are right now. Is we're moving beyond just the information gathering part, and people are looking for ways that they can learn to do these things and grow themselves and become more reliant on themselves, and again, ultimately get to that realization of who they truly are, and so it's beautiful to have the exercises in there, and so people can learn and grow themselves as they participate.
Well, to me, that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
It's the reason I've been so immersed in this is because I really feel that this is needed.
Mm-hmm.
That these teachings are just so important right now. We're in such a strange time.
Right.
When we did 2012, the Karo shaman said that we'd be in 2012, the world would be turned upside down, the lie would be the truth, these kinds of things.
Yeah.
It didn't seem to happen, but it seems like it's happening now.
Right.
And, how do we deal with this?
Mm-hmm.
It's also that the media, it just riles us up, and it becomes something that's addictive.
Yes.
And to me, these teachings, and there's actual scientific evidence too, because they've been using Qi Gong and Tai Chi, particularly to work with the veterans and with the Mayo Clinic. Roger Yanka, who's one of my associate professors, he's been doing a lot of this work. Amelia Wai-Ching Lee, who's also a producer, she's doing amazing healing work. In fact, for the Shift Network this year, she's going to do a mass healing.
Oh, really?
And that is free. The Qigong Global Summit. It's going to be 3 or 4 days, and it's all these interviews with exercises. So I encourage all of you to. I'll be talking about that on quantumchimovie.com, or in September. You look up Shift Network, you'll see they'll be advertising it. But it's going to be extraordinary, and really our gift to all of you. It's free. It's free energy, and when you look at what's going on the level also of energy, we're having brownouts, we're having lots of energy problems, and we know that there are mechanisms for actual free energy. And but Qi is the most free. Life force energy, you know, it's all around, it's in everything, it's in every being.
Right.
You know, it's there to give to others, to receive. And I feel that from even, I wish I had this in the schools, because I feel it just brings this kind of, if you relax into it, it brings a kind of sense of flow, and where you're just totally alive and totally in touch with everything. And then all these wonderful things happen, like synchronicities, and you meet people that you're supposed to meet, and because you're calming down your whole system.
Right.
You're not just, all the organs and the different, like the lymphatic system or the different systems, but it's also, you're really coming into this like sea of Qi, this sea of Qi, and you're just like flowing and feeling it nourish you.
Yeah.
And I think that is a real panacea to, because what happened to me as I went deeper and deeper, I started to really see the difference in myself between when I was in this flow state, as particularly our dear Lee Holden talks about, and then when you're out of it. And what happens is, as it becomes more grounded and deeper inside of you, then you start to desire that, rather than the addiction of the media and all their dramas. You start to want the drama, or you start to live in a way that the drama starts to lessen, and you have this clarity that is extraordinary.
Beautiful. Well, Sharron, I want to thank you for being here with us today, and for just sharing your story, and also sharing this exciting project that's coming up that I know is going to be a huge benefit for all of us, and really looking forward to this as it unfolds and begins to emerge.
Well, it's happening. It's happening. It's just it's very exciting.
Yeah.
And it can be very challenging too. And so I'm reaching out to all of you. Check it all out.
Yeah.
It will only bring you to joy and to a very different understanding of relationships, and particularly your relationship with yourself and the world. And in this time of transition that we're living in, we need to be these beacons of light.
Yeah.
We need to help humanity. We're in a very difficult time.
Yeah.
And the way that you do that is to begin with your own inner work, in your own inner nature. And Qi Gong really helps you to do that.
Well, thank you again, Sharron, for being with us today. And that is Sharron Rose. And again, you can find her website at quantumchimovie.com. You also may want to check out, as she was saying, the Facebook website. And if you feel moved, I would highly encourage you, not only for yourself, but also just for helping us push along our own collective journeys, to check out the crowdfunding. And if it's in your heart to participate in that, then I know that it would be greatly appreciated. And I also know that it's going to be a beautiful project. And I think that would be worth your investment of love and that sort of energy. So thank you for being here with us today, and on another Superpowers. And remember to go out there and experience the extraordinary.